I think I closed one transaction with my husband that year, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. So with the additional
Was he giving leads to somebody else?
no, he was not. He was more listing heavy.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Local Marketing Lab, where you get real-world insights from industry pros to help you drive local revenue and local growth. This podcast is brought to you by Evocalize, digital marketing tools powered by local data that automatically work where and when your locations need it most. Learn more at evocalize.com.
Well, what's up, and welcome to the Local Marketing Lab. Joining us in the lab today is a guest with more than 10 years of experience in the mortgage and real estate space. She likes boating, hiking, and snowboarding with her family. She's a branch manager at Omega Mortgage Group. Mandy Philips, thanks for joining us in the lab, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. I guess we could start with you telling us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got into, the mortgage space. That would be a great place to kick us off.
Sure. My husband and I first started with the real estate side, actually. We own a real estate brokerage here in Redding, California. And initially, we were an independent brokerage. And we had struggled for many years with the process of the transaction. And it seemed to be where we would get hung up was with the lending side.
Mm.
And we had no control over that part, yet we were the face of the transaction, being the realtors. And so we decided, let's get into mortgages. And we didn't know what we were doing, admittedly, but we did have the real estate experience. So my husband's like, congratulations, you're going to be heading this side. And I'm like, that is terrifying. I don't know what I'm doing. But what I do know is that it's very important that I handhold these people and give them the service that we were not receiving with other lenders. So that's how we got started. And I now run this business. I no longer sell real estate at all. And I have been very fortunate to build a clientele through social media, and past clients of mine and present clients of my husband's and the agents that work in that office. But social media really has been massive in my growth for my business. And over half of my business comes from social media now.
Wow. Yeah, I noticed some of your channels. You have a ton of followers, especially on TikTok. And your engagements seem to be like they're through the roof. And maybe we could talk a little bit about that, but also, it seems like you and your husband have a pretty good thing going with from a referral aspect, and not, I would venture to say 99% of folks in the mortgage space don't have that of a strong of a connection with someone who can refer them. So maybe we could talk a little bit about your social, as well as, some things that you think folks could do that could really move the needle in terms of driving business for themselves.
Absolutely. So I definitely recognize that I have a leg up there with the referral aspect. But I noticed with the increase in interest rates, early 22, that, that business was going to slow down quite a bit.
Mhm.
Transactional volume was slowing down. We certainly weren't seeing as many refinances. And so I decided I was going to take this opportunity to start posting on social media, because that's what they tell you should be doing.
Right.
And I decided myself to start with TikTok because I thought, no one's going to see me on here. I'm just going to be practicing, getting my awkwardness out. This will give me some content once I feel like I'm ready, that I can post on Facebook and Instagram where I actually know these people.
Yeah.
And within 2 to 3 weeks, I had a video go what I would have at the time considered viral. It
Yeah.
had a couple 100,000 views, and I was like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, this is wild. And I still don't know what I'm doing. But then I really leaned into that, and thank God I did, because that
Yeah.
year, that actually was 80% of my business. So
Wow.
social media was massive for me when the rates started to increase and my business
Mhm.
started to decrease. The referral business almost completely turned off. I think I closed one transaction with my husband that year, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. So with the additional
Was he giving leads to somebody else?
no, he was not. He was more listing heavy, and, that
Yeah,
doesn't really help me.
yeah,
I need the buyers.
yeah.
So with that, I started noticing where my social media followers were coming from, where my leads were coming from, and they were in states that I was not licensed in addition to my area, California.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up getting licensed in 4 additional states. So now I have 5 licenses, and I could probably pick up a couple more and do additional business, but 5's where I
Mhm.
tap out. But it is it has been massive because I am now able to, take on kind of more national business in addition to my local business.
Yeah. No, that's a huge help. It just expands the pond in which you can fish. Uh, you mentioned getting the awkwardness out of the way. Um, I I think a lot of folks, that's kind of an inhibitor to get started. So what was
Definitely.
it that got you to realize, "Hey, I just need to do this thing and get the reps in, and eventually the content will be good." Like, how did you kinda push past the barrier of self-doubt that a lot of folks deal with?
Well, for me, it was kind of twofold. One, I knew I wanted to, and quite frankly, I needed to create a small library of content in order to better explain the mortgage process
Mm,
because I was educating my clients individually, but it was becoming redundant for me, and, selfishly, I was like, it'd be way easier if I just make a video and I can email it to them, or I
yeah.
can direct them to this link. And so, initially, I started doing it with the intention of creating a content library, more explaining and educating on the mortgage process, some acronyms that they were going to be hearing a lot throughout the process, and giving kind of timeline updates. This is what to
Mhm.
expect, at this stage, and then this stage, and so forth. So that's where I initially started. I made a pretty lengthy Word doc and just started jotting down tons and tons of different video ideas based
Mhm.
on questions that I knew I was asked frequently, different things that I wish borrowers knew but didn't
Yeah.
know. And so I decided one Sunday to come in the office where nobody was going to be here. So I didn't have to feel uncomfortable filming in front of anyone, my
Mhm.
husband included. I still don't film in front of him. And I told myself I was going to knock out 5 videos, 5 short form videos, which I was like, "Oh, this is gonna take me 1 hour." Nope, it sure did not. It took me all day and about 37 takes to make one video. Uh,
Yeah.
but I made the commitment to myself that I was going to have these 5 videos and I was gonna post 1 every other day, and then I was gonna do the same thing the next Sunday. So I was
Mhm.
committing one day to making 5 videos to have something that I could post every other day because that seemed like a schedule I could keep up with.
Yeah.
And it worked, and it was a routine that worked for me, and then eventually, because there are 7 days in a week and I had 5 videos that I was posting every other day, I had additional content that I was able to
Mhm.
just keep in my drafts, and then if, life took me elsewhere, then I would have something that I could still post,
Mhm.
and then eventually I had enough content posted to where I could repost the same videos,
Yeah.
because in short form world, your content really isn't necessarily evergreen. People aren't really finding you, way after the fact. So
Mhm.
if you repost the same content, you're likely gonna reach different viewers, and
Mhm.
or the same viewer that did see it isn't gonna remember that they saw the exact same
Mhm.
video 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Especially when your content is like mine, where it's content that could be useful at, many different times. It doesn't really expire. It's not like I'm talking about a specific news article, which I do
Yeah.
every once in a while, but mine was more for the actual process of getting a mortgage.
With that being the case, with the algorithms recognizing what content works, have you actually created very similar content to try to keep that momentum?
Yeah, so I make a mix of two different types of content mostly. I will do I kind of leave some room for some flexibility, but the two main forms of content I make are talking head Q&A type videos where I
Uh,
now have tons of comments that I've saved that I reply to via video. So these are actual things that people ask me. TikTok's really great because you can just hold down the button and hit reply with video. So I do that.
mhm.
That's my number one type of content. My second form of content is in the form of short little skit videos. And the skit videos, I try to make educational, but also, they're based on real life scenarios.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say those are where I get my clients, but those are where I get my followers. So
yeah,
it brings people in, they follow me. That's usually where I see my largest amount of engagement. But then those that stay
yeah,
engage with my Q&A type videos, which are definitely more educational and more serious.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've seen both types of content on your channels, and they're both great. But I feel like with the younger demographic who are like maybe their first time home buyers, maybe they range up to maybe 30, 35 years
Hmm.
old. They I think there's an element of trust that needs to be built with those folks. And
Sure.
when you have a channel like you do, you're able to create this really authentic content that resonates on the channels that that demographic is, on all day, every day. And so they're going to come across your stuff, they're going to follow you, and they'll continue to engage with you until they feel comfortable and ready to make the purchase. And so the entire time you've been nurturing them along without actually having them necessarily in like an email nurture campaign, which is
Right.
something that's been done a lot more in the past.
In social media in general, you nurture people that you don't even know you're nurturing. I can't tell you the number of individuals that have come to me and they say something like, "I've been following you for a year, I've been following you for 2 years, and I'm finally ready." And I
Wow.
just happened to be the person they thought of because they saw me the most frequently. I don't even know that they
Yeah.
found my content to be that exciting. It's just that that's who they thought of because I was the only one, talking about it consistently. And that's been the case on Facebook as well and Instagram, even though those are not my two biggest platforms. I repurpose my content from TikTok and post there. That's actually where I've been getting a lot of my local business from is the fact that they have seen me on social media. Um, I do still get some referral content or contacts, of course, but still, it's about 50% is coming from my social media.
Do you ever do any like collabs with any folks locally or real estate agents or maybe even with your husband?
I do occasionally. It's more difficult than one would think to get somebody to get on camera with you. I
Yeah.
have had a number of realtors that I've collaborated with, same with my husband, but nobody seems to be jumping in and doing it as regularly as I encourage them to do. Uh,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where they see it working, and they think it's really great, but once they're actually in front of the camera, they get really nervous and intimidated, and that is something I still struggle with, but you just have to get through it. If you know something works, you just have to do it if it's important to you.
Yeah, 100%. We've had other guests who have talked about collaborating with other local businesses and just highlighting other folks within, their local region, whether it's, they're going to a game and they're highlighting, results of the game or how things have gone, or they're going to the gym and highlighting the owner there, or maybe the local ice cream place. Like, have you done that type of content as well to try to gain access to other audiences that exist?
I have, and it's been successful. Um, in my experience, I've kind of more pushed the realtors to do that because I am still involved in my husband's, real estate business, even though I
Hmm.
don't actively sell. That is where I've really encouraged the agents to focus because they need that more local connection. And they've done amazing collaborations with,
Mm.
restaurants, coffee shops, dog groomers. We have in our area, we have a lot of, hiking trails, mountain biking, lakes, mountains, and so fishing, world-class fly fishing.
Oh,
So
nice.
they've also highlighted, local amenities and features as well, and those videos have done great. So I've done
Hmm.
some, they've done more, and they have turned out beautifully because they get cross-posted, the business or
Mm.
in our area, whoever's managing, like, the fly fishing business or whatever, they will cross-post and cross-promote.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be a way it's kind of a hack for growing your audience.
Mhm,
It's a struggle, as you know, like to grow your audience from the ground up on your own. So if you can gain access to audiences that already exist,
mhm.
it's a lot faster way to be able to grow your own audience and gain your own followers to get your own word out more regularly.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you had somebody listening today who it could be on the mortgage side or on the real estate side, like they're really struggling to maybe drive growth or engagement, whatever it may be. What's one thing that you'd recommend they could do today or maybe sometime this week to really get the ball rolling in the right direction for them?
They need to isolate themselves, whether it's in a car, it's in an office where there are no humans around, and literally turn off all of their notifications on their phone. And in my opinion, that filming 5 videos, they just need to make it happen. Film 5 videos, you don't have to post them, but film them and work on editing them. Specifically edit out the awkward beginning pause because there's always going to be an awkward dead space that people are just going to scroll past if they see or
Mm,
hear. So they just need to get just that one editing piece down where they chop out the front part, start like literally as you're speaking, but get the 5 videos out. Once you get 5 videos recorded, it does something you're like, "Okay, this is not horrible. I can do
right.
this." But it's when they just do that one, they post that one, they're like, "Oh, I did it." And then they're like, "I can't do that again." You have to have a small batch to have
Yeah.
to get your nerves out and to get something to where you're like, "Okay, I can do this consistently." So they need to I can't tell you the number of videos that I see people post in their cars that do well. It's quiet in
Hmm.
there. You can go to a space, face your car where you have good lighting. It doesn't need to be beautiful. I think a lot of people in their mind, they think they need to have the most perfect recording space. They think they need to make it
Hmm.
really aesthetic, and they don't. People work with people they like, people that they relate to, and they want to see you being a real person. And
Hmm.
so it doesn't really matter as long as they can see you and hear you. It doesn't matter what the background looks like.
Right. Yeah. If you look at a lot of the popular like AI tools now where you can create avatars that can make
Mhm.
videos for you, like a lot of them have the walking and talking, they're walking down the street or just
Yeah.
a normal background. So it seems super authentic because that's what
Mhm.
the algorithms pick up on. That's what
Yep.
people like to see and they
Exactly.
engage with it.
People overthink it, and then that's crippling to them, and then they just don't
Yeah.
do it because they don't have the right microphone, they don't have the right ring light or the right camera, but that's not even what works. When I see videos that
Yeah.
are too overly edited, it's too salesy. I don't like it.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah. That's when I started making videos too. It's the same thing. It's just like you work with what you have and then
Mhm.
you just improve and optimize with
Yeah,
anything else in life. It's like, okay, maybe I'm going to get a light or maybe I'll get a microphone or do whatever.
yeah.
But you don't have to have everything get started. If that's the case, like you will likely never get started because you
Exactly.
get so overwhelmed by everything that you have to do to make this perfect start because you want it to
Mm-hmm.
be just right. But at the end of the day, like, odds are your very first video is not going to go viral,
Yeah.
so not that many people are going to see it anyway. So
Yeah.
it's better just to get the reps in.
Absolutely. This is definitely one of those situations where quantity is better than quality. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't recognize that or don't understand that. Yeah, you want to eventually make good content, but you just want to
Yeah.
get content out there first and then go from there.
Yeah. I've got a good buddy. His name's Sean Walchef. He's in the restaurant space, but he always says uh, quantity times consistency times speed equals quality.
I like
The
it.
more that you can get a ton of videos out
Hmm.
there, like, the quality is going to improve the more that you do
Yep.
regardless. And if you get them
Absolutely.
as many as you can out there as fast as you can, then you can accelerate your learnings and get, even better, even faster. So you're not waiting 2, 3 months for what you could achieve in 1 month. If you
Yeah.
just, like you said, you're creating 5 videos at the very beginning. Most people don't do that. They just start with one.
Yeah.
If you do batches of 5, then you can stack them up. And instead of posting, you get to the one a day or one every other day.
Yep.
Then maybe you can get to one a day. Then you may be doing 2 a day or whatever it
Yep.
might be.
Yeah.
And doing so will get you. The algorithms will pick you up more so and just get you in front of even more folks.
Yep. Absolutely.
Very cool. So, is there someone that you have kind of emulated, or it could be in any industry where you're like, man, this is like the solid content that I really want to kind of be like them? Just to give another idea, because I know your channels are great, and we're going to guide people to those channels so they can follow you and see the types of content that you produce. But what are some other folks that are out there that you think are producing really solid content?
So in my industry, the first mortgage content creator that I discovered, I think he actually has probably the most followers of any mortgage creator on TikTok, and his name is Scott Bentley. And his content was short, relatable, easy to digest. Some of it was funny, some of it was educational,
Mm,
and none of it was, you know, overly edited or professionally filmed. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And
yeah.
he has over 800,000 followers on TikTok
Wow.
alone. And so I kind of modeled my content after that. However, I am long-winded, so I talk a lot, and so my videos ended up being way longer than his, but that worked, for me, that was
That works
fine.
for you.
Yeah,
That's the thing is you gotta work with what you have, like, if you try to change yourself for the video or for the content,
right.
it's probably gonna come off as inauthentic and not
Yeah,
perform as well as if you're just being yourself.
right.
So speaking of being yourself, like, you like to do I mentioned earlier, you like hiking, you like boating, you like nature, snowboarding. What's your favorite place to go snowboarding?
So, admittedly, I am not the best snowboarder. It's more my kids that I take snowboarding.
Oh,
Um,
that's
they
alright.
That's all yeah, we live about an hour south of Mount Shasta. So we take them there, but really where they love to go is Mount Bachelor. We
Uh-huh.
usually get them season passes. Mount Bachelor is outside of Bend, Oregon, and it's about
Oh,
four
okay.
and a half hours away from here.
Yeah,
So we'll go up on, the winter break or President's Week or whatever, because they have a million breaks now. And the kids love it and it's beautiful. And they have two lovely lodges that my husband and I can sit in and enjoy,
that's cool.
and, still take in the snow, but not be freezing cold.
Yeah, yeah, the first time I went snowboarding with my wife, like, the first run, I was just feeling really confident, and I'm like, "Man, I've got this," and I was approaching the sign, like, at the lift to say, "Slow down," and I was gonna hit it, and I couldn't carve out of the way.
Ah,
I ended up
yeah.
wrecking so hard, I broke a
Oh.
rib in
Oh,
front of, like,
no.
50 people.
Oh, it's the worst. I can barely get off the lift. One time the lift knocked me in the back of the head, and then as soon as I made
Oh,
it
man.
down, I, landed flat on my face, and I'm like, "Okay, you're a grown up. Don't cry, don't cry."
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Well, I dug up this action shot of you,
Oh,
actually, it was from
yeah.
AI.
Yeah, that's exactly what I look like.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
tearing down the mountain.
That's right. Well, awesome. Well, hey, this is a ton of fun, Mandy, having you on. But before we let you go, why don't you tell folks how they can follow you across the different channels that you're on?
I appreciate that. I am Mortgage Mandy on Facebook. Technically, I think I'm official Mortgage Mandy. On Instagram, I'm mortgage_Mandy, but on
Mm.
TikTok and YouTube, I'm just Mortgage Mandy.
And then your website, what is that?
MandyPhilips.com.
Awesome. And on that website too, they can get all your different social handles there at the bottom.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, this is a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming and for your insights. And for those who are listening, thanks again for listening. You know, we've got some really cool guests that we bring on. I think Mandy's an incredible guest to show, her insights into what you could actually do today to start, growing your social channels and nurturing your folks along in a way that they'll engage with content that resonates. So thanks again, Mandy, for joining us in the lab.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You bet.
This podcast is brought to you by Evocalize. To learn how Evocalize can help you grow your business, visit evocalize.com. If you learned something new from today's episode, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on X at Evocalize. That's EVOCALIZE. And remember, keep innovating and trying new things. You never know what's going to connect with your audience until you try. And until next time, thanks for listening.